Welcome back to another episode of the ZQUAKE podcast. My name is Julian Sonnenberg, and today we are joined by another very special guest. He took the internet by storm at age 9, playing the piano on America's Got Talent. He won the Child Genius game show. He was in 10th grade at age 10. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Adrian Romoff.
Thank you, Julian.
Thank you so much for coming on.
Of course. Pleasure to be here.
From Atlanta.
Well, I was there for a couple of years, born in Pittsburgh, 6 years in Georgia, moved around a couple of years, and now here in Florida.
What do you like the best, Florida, Georgia, or Pittsburgh?
No, Florida's the best.
I agree. Florida is the best.
Tropical climate.
So at what age did you start playing the piano?
I started playing piano when I was 4. My mom's a music teacher, so I was introduced to music at a really young age. Probably at around 2, I started playing cello for a couple of months, and then my mom's a violinist, so I played violin for a couple of years. Then took up piano at 4, but piano's really what stuck. Been playing ever since, although I'm retired for the last couple of years, 3 years.
How did you decide to continue with piano and not another instrument?
I can't particularly recall. I was so young, but I know I had more of a natural connection, I guess, since I can't really remember consciously choosing it. It must have been something deep within that really preferred piano versus anything else as sort of a musical gateway to the emotions that I could express most sincerely.
At what age were you like, wow, okay, I'm really good at this. I need to pursue this as almost a career?
Well, as far back as I can remember, I was on the Ellen Degeneres Show when I was 6 for piano related. I played at Carnegie Hall when I was like 6. That was the first time I played there, a total of 3 times. And so really, as far back as I remember, I know I was ahead of the curve, which is really a testament to my mom and all the hard work that she's put into to develop that growth musically. And it just kept going, one thing after another, positive feedback loop. Ellen, and then America's Got Talent, and then a bunch of other concerts, and then I sort of focused a little bit more on the classical aspect of it. I won competitions and internationally and whatnot, and so that kind of kept rolling forward up until the point when I kind of decided to
So
pivot.
Ellen at age 6.
Yeah.
Did they reached out to you? And
Yeah, they reached out to me.
What was your reaction when you heard that Ellen Degeneres wanted you on her show?
She reached out to me. So I remember reading the email. This was back when my mom used to reply to all emails in all caps. I remember she reached out to me. I had never heard of Ellen, so I didn't know anything about this, but my mom did, and so obviously that was really cool for us and for everyone else. And yeah, it was really fun to go on there. I think I was looking forward to. I know she had a reputation of giving gifts, so she sent me to Universal for 2 days.
Wow.
Yeah.
How was that? How was Universal?
Universal was fun. It was fun. It was. I went there because I really loved Harry Potter at the time. So
Yeah.
So I went. She gave me a little gift basket, and I went for my birthday. It was really nice, all inclusive and whatnot.
That's awesome. And
I have really great memories of her. She was very nice.
That's good. And so that was at age 6. And at what age did you go on America's Got Talent?
America's Got Talent came at 9. So I was 9, and then it was between 9 and 10.
And that's when you kind of went viral. The audition on America's Got Talent, that's when you were the talk of the world. Every news station was covering you. Like 25 million views on YouTube. It just kind of exploded.
Yeah. So when I was, Ellen was good for sure, but I think maybe that gave me some, credibility for America's Got Talent. But once I went on there, yeah, definitely took off for sure.
Did you have any interactions with the judges backstage?
Mild, a little bit. They not really during the first episode, not during the first one. I was actually the opening act of season 9 when they aired it. I was the first act for them to show, which was pretty nice. I guess that showed a testament to entertainment value at a minimum.
100%.
But yeah, I had some interactions with them backstage during the second rounds. They were very pleasant, very nice. Howie fist bump because he's a germaphobe. But
yeah. Who's your favorite judge?
I think Heidi was really nice. She was definitely like the nicest but like they were all nice.
And you had a little bit of a different audition than most people because Howard Stern made you play again.
Yeah, he was initially quite receptive to me. He like just after hearing that I was in 10th grade when I was like 9, he like stood up and gave me a round of applause, which was nice. But then he kind of sort of doubted my I had a little soundtrack going in the background, and so he kind of doubted my abilities. But then I played a little classical piece without it, and that cleared it up.
That's crazy. I mean, what was going through your head when he was like, "I want you to play again"? You couldn't have been too happy with that response.
It's funny. I remember thinking like, "Hey, I know this is a TV show. I know that this is kind of what they're going for, and I know that he's there." Especially what little I knew of Howard Stern at 9, I knew he was like the controversial guy. So I took it in stride, and I just said, "Hey, how do I one up this? How do I come out of here stronger?"
Yeah.
And I did, and I passed.
So how far did you make it on America's Got Talent?
Made it to the quarterfinals. It was pretty nice. That's the Radio City Music Hall, so that's kind of like the main testament. After that it's whatever, but I got that recognition, and a lot of stuff came in after that.
Yeah,
trickled down a bit.
What was going through your head when you got eliminated?
I was definitely really sad. Of course, I was only like 10, but I was sad that I couldn't, get to, share some of the cool ideas I had to play for the next couple of rounds. But it's whatever. You move on to the next challenge, and you hope for better results. But without preparation, hope only gets you so far.
Yeah, definitely. I saw a video of you on a show called Super Kids.
Yeah.
It wasn't in English. Where was that?
It was in, there's a big like classical music scene in Germany. Well, Germany is like the biggest country in like Europe about like, just in general. So, that was one of the things that America's Got Talent kind of opened the door towards, and they had asked me to just kind of come over and just do my act, sort of just to do it, and they would compensate me for it. so it was nice. I went there for a week. It was all in German. I had some translator thing in my ear. Just redid what I did on America's Got Talent, and
Yeah, and while you're on that show, they asked you what you wanted to be when you grew up, and you said you wanted to be the CEO of Apple. Is that still your goal?
Well, perhaps it's a bit more nuanced now. I'd be fine with making my own Apple, so to speak. So
that's your goal. That's what you want to eventually be when you're older. You want to have your own tech company.
I think, yeah. If I had my own tech or tech finance or fintech company that became successful, I think I'd be happy with what I accomplished.
Yeah, and you also won a show called Child Genius. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. So when I was about 10, 11. This was also coming off the heels of America's Got Talent. I got onto it was a game show on Lifetime called Child Genius. It was their second season, and there were 12 kids, each 10 weeks. Each week, someone would be eliminated, and last week's the final 3, and I won. It was very exciting. One of the contestants, Claire, is a good friend of mine to this day. So it was a great experience, and of course, winning the 100K was great.
100K towards college, correct?
Yep, 100K towards academic expenses.
Yeah. At some point in the show, your father showed up, and your mother wasn't too happy about it, huh?
Well, this is it's TV, right? So some things are played up for dramatic effect. Obviously, my mom and my dad perhaps might have had a couple of slight disagreements on the direction that the way I should have been preparing, but they were both very valuable towards helping me win, and as you can see at the end, we were all very excited as a family. Whatever slight disagreements are, of course, exaggerated for entertainment value.
Yeah. And I don't know if you know this, but while you were on the show, Lifetime actually tweeted out 45 minutes before they aired the show accidentally that you had won.
Oh, really?
Did you know about that?
It might have rung a bell, but I'm gonna go ahead and say I didn't.
When I was reading up on you, I saw this. I was like, wow, that's interesting. I wonder if he even knows about that.
No, that's actually like the first time I'm like actually aware of that. So that's cool.
And to continue with your piano career, you were invited to play at the White House, which is, in my opinion, very impressive. Talk about your experience there.
Yeah. Thank you. There was the First Lady Melania Trump at the time was sort of running a sort of like mini competition about who would be able to perform a Christmas concert for one of the special Christmas events that they had at the White House. It was Christmas at the White House is a very big thing. Everything's decorated very beautifully, and so I entered. I put in my my resume, a couple of videos sent my way, and I remember that when I got there, one of the White House interns who was tasked with screening through the first couple of submissions, he was like, I remember seeing you on America's Got Talent, and I was like, oh, we gotta get this guy. So I guess shout out to him for
so you ended up winning the competition and playing at the Christmas event.
Yep, I wound up being the Christmas performer for their Christmas concert, a private event at the tour.
And what were your interactions like with President Trump and his wife Melania?
Well, it was very nice. It was kind of very quick and informal, but it was very nice to have been able to meet them. Yeah,
100%. Something else really cool, which you were telling me about over the weekend, is you performed at a Knicks halftime show in MSG.
Yes. So a little fun throwback fact is that my America's Got Talent audition was at MSG. It was at Madison Square Garden originally. So I to go back there again, but this time for an actual basketball game, play at the halftime was really cool. They brought me out. They brought out a piano to the middle. I did the whole bumblebee thing, and yeah, it was fun. It was fun. The whole crowd, it was like 35,000 people.
Yeah, and what a absolutely legendary stadium. So if you're going to perform in any stadium, for it to be MSG is, I mean, you must have felt really good about yourself to perform there.
Yeah, I'm not really. I wasn't really too familiar with an arena. Every arena is another arena, but definitely looking back, it was a great to have done that twice. For
sure. You also won a piano competition in Kazakhstan.
Yes.
How was Kazakhstan?
Kazakhstan, they went over. They had a whole makeover, a whole glow up, you could say. Their capital used to be called Astana, was renamed Nur-Sultan in honor of their longtime president, Nur-Sultan something or other. But he was, but I digress. The city was very beautiful. The opera house that I played at was beautiful. The orchestra and the conductor of the national orchestra, they were incredible. The jury was headed by the elite pianist Denis Matsuyev, and it was very nice to have met him and to have him award me the first prize and the grand prize across all divisions. I was in the middle division. Was very
what
very
was
honoring.
The prize?
Well, it was like it's more, it's not really monetary. That's the value for all these music competitions. It's the honor of winning. But it was 1 million tenge, which is like, I don't know, 2,500 or something.
Hey, listen, it's better than nothing, right?
Yeah, it's better than nothing.
I want to talk a little bit about your education.
Mm-hmm.
At what age did you realize that you were way above the curve with your academics?
Yeah, so I mean, I started skipping grades right out of kindergarten. Really, went to second grade, then fourth, then sixth, then eighth, and 10th, and 12th. I guess sort of whatever I was doing. 2 grades, kind of every 1 year, kind of helped propelled me up the ladder, so that I finished in about half the time. And
were you going to normal school?
It wasn't like, it's not what you would consider a normal school. It was a private accredited school. but you were only supposed to go to their classes twice a week, and then you would do the rest at home, which was really helpful for my upbringing, because you could still learn in the typical classroom setting, go with other kids, and at the same time, I had to practice a lot at home, piano, that I was also pursuing, and my own studies on top of it that allowed me to do twice as much every year. So it was the perfect thing for me.
And do you feel like skipping so many grades and not going to what you would consider regular school affected your social life?
It definitely affected my social life. It didn't affect my social development, at least I'd say. But I was still with people. I'm not. I'm a little bit more, I guess, extroverted. A lot of I guess I couldn't really have been introverted, or at least extraordinarily introverted, if I wasn't. Well, actually, that's not necessarily true, because a lot of the greats, like Liberace and other stuff, a lot of other people were very quiet, personally, but very open on stage. But I consider myself to be, more extroverted on stage and off stage. So yeah, I mean, I didn't have a normal childhood per se. I almost sometimes joke that I never really had a childhood, but what it's kind of whatever, like what did I really miss out on is some fun and games in the sun, but now I have something to show for it. Not that I'm saying that it's not like it's better or worse, it's just different. Sometimes people immediately start saying, oh, well, it's better, or oh, it's worse, or I would have preferred that. And it's like, well, you don't really know what you would have preferred until you've actually experienced it. But then sometimes it's too late. So sometimes just because it's different doesn't mean it's better or worse.
So you don't regret at all the sort of lifestyle you chose growing up?
Well, the funny thing is that I can't really regret it, because I didn't choose it. It was kind of chosen for me by my parents, or by my mom. It was kind of chosen for me, and so that comes with its pros and cons.
Do you feel any sort of animosity towards your mom for choosing that lifestyle for you?
So it's a funny thing you should say that is, I've obviously done a lot of reflecting on that, and I think that's actually the main reason why I chose to not go with piano, is because as much as piano is dear to me personally, as a career, I feel like all those choices, all those choices that were, I say, made for me, were sort of, I could have, blamed per se on piano, whether or not I should have or not. But I thought it was better to blame it on some inanimate object, so to speak, the piano as a career, rather than on my mom. And so that's kind of why I put all those negative feelings and all those, regrets, of which I really don't have any, onto piano. And so when I made the decision to pursue my academics, which were, it's not like I made a silly decision. Those are also, I've had multiple accomplishments in that field. I feel like that's what sort of prevented me from really having any form of negative feelings towards my mom.
So in the moment while you were growing up, were you totally fine with that sort of lifestyle, or were you always jealous of other kids who were living normal lifestyles per se?
I'd say up until I was 12, I had a little friends here and there. I went to school, and I really couldn't care less. For me, everything was all fun and games, basically. It was all serious, but I'm still a kid. I'd say when I graduated high school and went to college at 12, and I feel like that's when I started. Kind of, I knew from when I was 10, 11, I didn't want to do piano. I knew I didn't want to do piano. My mom would always be like, oh, well, you don't really know yet. You're young. You don't really know yet. But I always knew. And so when I was 12, that's when it started. But it was, it was like, okay, whatever. It's fine. I'm going to college still, blah, blah, blah. But then I dropped out of college. And that's kind of when it really hit me, when I wasn't in school and I was just doing piano, and it's like I knew I didn't really want to do this like in the future. I think that's when it really started bubbling up, and especially since I didn't have since it was piano all day every day basically, I think that's when I was like really starting to be like, hey, get me out of this in a way. But But I carried on. I had a lot of good. I think like that's sort of why well, for me at least, some of my stuff was like hit or miss kind of thing, because like unless your spirit is 100% behind it, unless your soul is 100% behind it, it's gonna peek through in some of your performances. It's gonna peek through. So it's like if you're not 100% behind it, then nothing can help you. If you're just like they say, if you're like if you don't love yourself, nothing's gonna fix it. If you're not happy with yourself, no one else is gonna make you happy. So I kind of understood that, but at the same time, there was a lot of accomplishments and stuff going on, and I truly love piano. Like I love the experience, but I just didn't want it as a career. I think if I wasn't doing as well in my academics, I don't think that would have been an issue.
Going to college at age 12, did you have to take an SAT to get into college?
I took the ACT. I retook the SAT a couple years ago, just kind of like for the fun of it. But I took the ACT when I was 10. I got a 32 on it.
32 out of 36. But that was when you were 10.
That's when I was 10. Yeah. I retook it a couple years ago just to try and get a 36, which I did. So, yay.
Wow. That is impressive. I mean, it's very rare to hear that someone got a perfect score on the ACT. What did you get on the SAT when you retook it a couple years ago?
Well, it was the first time me taking it. I never took the SAT. I just thought I'd take it. But I got a 1570 on it, which is, hey, at least I got an 800 on the math.
So perfect score on the math, 1570 on the SAT. How many did you get wrong on the English?
I got three 770. So
wow. And when you got that score back, were you like, damn, I wanted a perfect score? Or were you just happy you got a 1570?
Well, I told myself I at least wanted to get a perfect score on the math, because that's kind of what was most important to me. And I had already gotten my ACT score back where I got everything right on the reading. So I was like, yeah, okay, whatever. I took like 2
You mentioned
tests
before how you did not choose the piano lifestyle and it was chosen for you by your mom. What's your relationship like with your mom now?
I mean, we have a great relationship. We're very close, my mother and I. Like as I said, there's no animosity between, or there's no like, I have zero. I know what my mom did. I know she did it out of like the best for me, and I know that harboring any form of sort of like something that I've actually benefited from in a significant way would be silly and childlike. And as I said, any form of little resentment that I might have towards, whatever superficial almost form of social life I have, I've sort of like put that onto the idea of the career of piano, which I've chosen, myself not to pursue. And so I'm at peace with all decisions that I've made and all decisions that have been made for me.
What college did you attend when you were 12?
I attended Bard College at Simon's Rock. It was a college in Western Massachusetts. The average starting age there is 16, so they get a lot of younger kids, which was like a big factor in my decision making to go there. Because me being 12 and them being 16 is way better than me being 12 and them being 18 or 19 or whatever.
So I was going to ask what were people's reactions when they saw you walk into the classrooms or the lecture halls? But I guess a lot of the kids were younger, so it wasn't really, so insane to see someone your age. I mean, you were still 12 and the other kids are 16. So was there a little bit of a reaction when you would walk in?
No, I mean, for sure. Because, 12 years old is like what, 7th grade? Basically, yeah. 16 is like 10th grade, sort of. So it's 11th, something like that. So it's a couple of years, but since these are really fast development periods, so it's much more noticeable than that 2-year reduction is much more noticeable. Yeah, but there was probably a little bit of some novelty factor almost per se, but I did develop some friends, and for sure very quickly, and I had absolutely no problem fitting in socially. I would say, though, that I might have been a little bit insecure about my age only when it came to, like, my mom coming around. Like, every kid, like, even when they're all the same age, 11 or 12, doesn't like when their mom, like, shows up and says, hey, even if they're just being there, like, hey, how are you? They're like, get away from me. But I'm with my friends. What if they say blah, blah, blah? Even if they're the same age. But, with me being 12 and with 16, and since, like, the age is already a factor, I do remember being very insecure about that when my mom would like come to pick me up or whatever, because I lived off campus there.
So you moved to Massachusetts with your mom. You lived
Yep.
off campus, and how long did you stay there for?
3 semesters. I was there for 3 semesters, so it was about a year and a half.
And then you decided to drop college and pursue piano. Or
Yeah,
your mom decided for
as
you.
I said, yeah, it was kind of decided for me, but it was the right choice. As much as I missed the social life, I just, you know, the suddenness of suddenly being in college in a new place, you know, pursuing piano, you know, being 12, all this stuff in my head. I wasn't doing as well at college as I could have been, and I know my mom recognized that, and so she made, as much as it wasn't like the most pleasant thing, you know, I did have a good thing going there myself. It was definitely the right decision career-wise to have made for me.
So you spent about 5 years specifically just focusing on piano.
So let's see, that would have been, I left end of 2017. So 2018, I spent all of 2018.
Oh, okay. So not 5 years.
Not 5 years.
Okay,
I spent
I'm
all of
sorry.
2018, kind of different locations. I was in Virginia, I was in Texas, I was in Russia for 2 months, I was in Florida. Towards the end is when I moved to Florida, right at the end there. So beginning of 2019 is when I was like when we officially moved to Florida. We've been in the same house since then, and I started taking non-degree classes nearby, but it was still, you know, just as an addendum to piano. So 2018 was piano focused. 2019 was focused on piano, and then up till COVID started was also focused on piano. It was probably like, and then there was like a brief like resurgence of interest in piano. Like there was like one more competition that we were maybe going to prepare for at the end of 2021, but it's really been kind of quiet since 2020, 2021.
I see here in 2020 you were invited to play at the, I'm probably going to say this wrong, but the Verbier Music Festival in Switzerland.
Yeah, so that was I got that from there were some special awards given at the Kazakhstan, the Astana piano competition that were given to some of the participants. I was one of them that was selected to attend the Verbier Festival, which is probably one of the most prestigious festivals, the international music festivals related to classical music. But that was supposed to be in 2020, but unfortunately COVID hit, so that was done remotely. And then by 2021, I had sort of, you know, when they kind of reopened to 2021, 2022, I had sort of wound down my my piano pursuit. So that kind of never wound up never actually occurring per se, but it was offered. I would have done it in 2020 if it wasn't for COVID.
Yeah. So when you went back to college, what was that experience like? Did you enjoy it? I mean, I'm sure it was a lot different, you know, taking a couple of years off, focusing on playing piano, traveling all over the country, and now you're back in school with, you know, normal kids, I would say. What was that like for you?
Yeah. So I took some non-degree classes. So this was, you know, pre-COVID 2019. So some of them were in person. And you know, I'm like 14 now. It's like not that big of a difference. So it was, you know, 14 with 18-year-olds. Like I can't escape this, the same 4-year gap. But it's it's funny. I used to make this joke. It's like, you know, when I was 12, you know, and all my friends were like 16. And I was like, one day I'll be 16 too. And then it's like, oh, I'm 16, but now all my friends are 20. You know, but so yeah, it was kind of like that for a couple of years. Then COVID hit, everything moved online, and that's fine by me. I'm a big fan of online classes. You know, I do everything in like, you know, you waste much less time. Well, it depends on the instructor. If the instructor is like, if they provide good PowerPoints and stuff, then I can study it on my own. But if it's like some loose chapters and then they're actually teaching something totally different, then you have to watch the lectures. But yeah, so I, you know, only now I'm 18 and a half, you know, since I turned 17, really, that's been the only kind of amount of, kind of like normal interactions, one could say, although now I'm like a senior. So that's that. But I did do research. I did do research at FAU, some chemistry research, and FAU also has a program called FAU High School, which is great. Highly recommend. Not being paid or anything, but the FAU High School, it's great because we go in there at 14, doing high school. 15, you're already basically at FAU. So by the time you're 19, you have your degree. So there was a girl there that I did research with for a couple of years, because while I was a non-degree student, I was basically doing chemistry, and then before I switched over to computer engineering, and then I had done some research in the lab there. And then I brought her in. We did research. She was a bio major, and then after I left, she kind of finished up the research, and the research that we've done has actually been published in a paper. So that's really cool.
That is really cool. So you're 18 and a half now. Do you still do online college classes?
Yeah, I prefer to do online because I know I also work a full-time software engineering job, Magic Leap. So I am being paid to promote Magic Leap. No, but technically I am because it's my company, but not mine. Be nice, but it isn't. But I do work there. It's a great place. I was really honored to have been, that they gave me the chance, because I haven't even gotten my degree yet, but they decided to go ahead and give me the interviews, and so I went ahead, and now almost 2 years strong, I've been converted to a full-time employee as of like a year ago, and so it's really great. I'm glad that I can be there while I'm teaching.
And
not
talk
teaching,
about a little what you do for Magic Leap.
Yeah, so I'm a software engineer, but of course that's a very broad meaning. We're on a team. I'm on a team called Software Performance and Reliability, and we do a lot of, like we have the code base, and we have one device, and the product that our company makes, Magic Leap 2. And so our team is kind of tasked with monitoring the stability, but at the same time making definite improvements. So, like for example, I'm in charge of certain performance KPIs, key performance indicators, some stuff such as memory and boot time, and et cetera, et cetera. So, I try to look into these things, see how to make them faster, better, or making sure and saying like, oh, hey, and then chasing the engineering teams and kind of understanding how all the systems fit together. So it's kind of like a systems level role. Not really a testing role, because we don't just test. While we do test, to provide an additional source of data, we're actively trying to identify issues as well as ways to improve them.
Do you enjoy working for them?
Yes, I do. It's really at times it can be really almost like detective-like work, trying to really understand. And there's also a lot of social aspects to it, dealing with all the different teams. It's not just you sitting in there, writing code, and then your manager deals with the other teams, and you basically never meet anyone. But this is a lot of discussion and understanding, and really cross-team role. So I really like that role. I think it's a great sort of entry-level thing for me to have done while I'm.
So you're taking online college classes currently, and you're also working full-time for a tech company. Talk about how you manage your time. I mean, that can't be easy.
Yeah, and I also sleep 10 hours a day. Yeah.
Sleep is good. Sleep is important.
Sleep is good. One could almost say that might be the key, but I don't know. But yeah, so I work, and I like to say I do my homework in my spare time, but I like the fact that I do online classes. And so that's, that gives me a lot of flexibility in the sense, you don't work on the weekends. So whatever you can get done on the weekends, you get done on the weekends. And then after work, whatever else is remaining to study up on, or any tests, you do it then. But most of my classwork I just do on the weekends. So it works fine.
So when you're not doing work for your classes and you're not working for the tech company, what do you do in your free time nowadays?
Yeah, so I have I tutor, but I do a little bit of tutoring. I've been winding that down for a while now, but I still tutor a little bit. But in my free time, I like to play golf.
Right, we were talking about this. We got to set it up. We got to golf together.
We got to golf. I love golfing. A big fan of golf. I think it's really great. I try to play at least around. I've been playing around once a week now on Sundays. You may be thinking, but am I supposed to be doing my homework? I know. I'll get to it. I'll get to my homework. Don't worry.
If Adrian's professors are watching this, he will get to his homework.
I will get to my homework. But yeah, so I really like golfing. I read, I hang out with some of my friends and whatnot, but it's whatever.
Yeah, that's cool. So between piano and skipping all those grades and kind of a crazy childhood, I would say, that you had, do you have a favorite memory?
Do I have a favorite memory? That's a good question. I have a lot of good memories. You know, there are probably, one of the things that stands out to me is, how when I was a kid, Apple was like the big thing. I wanted to be the CEO of Apple. But I met at one of the events that I had performed in. I met Steve Wozniak, who was he was the co-founder of Apple alongside Steve Jobs. One of the, because of him, Apple would not have been what it is today because of him, because he was the main, actually designer and architect of all the initial, the Apple II is what made Apple famous before, the iPhone and the iPod and whatnot. But without that initial Apple II, who knows what Steve Jobs would have done, what else. But so when I met him, that was really great. And as an outcome of meeting him, I had asked him, it'd be really great if I could go to one of the Apple events. I used to watch him all the time, every Apple event, WGC, and all the product launches. It was like a holy day for me, the 4 times a year. And I had asked him if it was possible, and he says, I've never, served as a conduit to Tim Cook. I've never really done this, but he said, I could see the tangible benefit that it would have, possibly to Apple in the future, which was really nice to hear of him, the way he wrote the email to Tim Cook. And I got invited as a special guest of Tim Cook's to the WWDC in 2016. I actually have a picture with Tim Cook. So that's a really special memory to me, living up to that potential that he saw in me, saying that I'm not, that he would not just, use this as a say like, oh, hey, look, I went to Disneyland, like, oh, I went to WWDC, but as a way to actually have some meaningful impact. And, I look on that and that's definitely part of the multifaceted approach of stuff that drives me for sure.
How old were you at the event?
2016 would have been, so I would have been 11. And because it was early.
I mean, that's really cool to be invited to one of those events. Was it a good experience?
Yeah, it was really great, to see everyone live and whatnot. And, it was funny enough even to see, there was like an Apple aide there who was assigned to like make sure everything was going well. So that was nice. But it was really well taken care of, really smooth. And it was great to see them. And then afterwards I went up and thanked Tim Cook personally. And it was very nice to have met him.
Do you have a role model or someone that you've looked up to in your life?
So, one of the interesting things that I find about role models is that a lot of times when we try to be someone else, they always say, be who you are. And there's like a two-pronged kind of way of looking at this that I look at is, if you like obsessively try to be just like someone else, you're never going to be better than them because you will never be them. So you will always almost be them, but that's not enough, right? And like I said, just because it's different doesn't mean it's better or worse. So the goal is to be different in a good way. Have your own accomplishments towards that. So that's why another thing that I also think of is it's good to have role models, for sure, to have like a grounded approach, being like, this is someone who existed and did something, and that like these parts of them are what I want to take and learn from. But if you try to be too much like that, like if you look at Elizabeth Holmes, for example, she was like obsessively trying to copy Steve Jobs. Didn't work out too well for her, did it? So, there's that. Also, another thing is I think it's also good to have role models in the sense of like, not role models, but, fictional characters. I think it's also great to, have like some fictional characters that you look up to because they're fictional. So if you try to be like them, it's like, doesn't matter. They didn't exist. So you can be them in a sense. So, if so, now if we want to name names, cartel don't come after me. But if we want to name names, some of the real life people, right, that I look up to are definitely for sure some of the, since I'm more in the tech, I'm in more of the tech I like technology, finance, and psychology are some of like the main things. But I really look up to, I have to say Steve Jobs, even though I used him as an example, as a bad example.
I mean, how can you not? You wanted to be the CEO of Apple. You kind of have to throw Steve Jobs in there.
I have to throw in Steve Jobs. So Steve Jobs, Steve Wozniak, then for sure. From some of the finance perspective, probably people like Warren Buffett, and some of the like I haven't spent too much time because I look at all the successful people, like Michael Dell, Carl Icahn, even the people who are good and the people who are bad, because I try to aggregate, I try to see what it is that and I try not to obsessively focus on one person too much. So it's like I read up on one of the people and I say, oh, this is what worked for them. How can I extrapolate to me something that I can see for me? Like some fictional characters that I like are like Hercule Poirot is one of my favorite detectives. One of my favorite anti-heroes is Admiral Thrawn, Grand Admiral Thrawn in the Star Wars universe. A couple of stuff like that. But yeah, like I said, there's some, I try to see like how can I be better? Like try to compare myself to who I was. Am I better as opposed to how am I compared to someone else? So it's a weight of things.
And you mentioned looking at fictional characters as sort of a role model. So do you have any fictional characters that you look at?
Yeah. So like I said, Hercule Poirot. He's a detective, Agatha Christie, one of my favorite writers, and so that's he's like I really like his characters. Really, the way he's always like trying to make sense of things, and he says use your little gray cells, try to think things through, that sort of thing. And so, or like Thrawn from the Star Wars universe is also very methodical. Of course, he's technically portrayed as a villain, although I argue he's more of an anti-hero, but. Those kinds of I prefer like some of the analytical type, because I think if you really think something through, you'll find a way out of it. There's something. There's always something missing. There's always something you're missing that you can find to get out of some situation. So that's kind of what I take from that. Also something I learned from my mom.
So aside from college, work, and golf, what else do you like to do? There's got to be something else that Adrian likes to do in his free time. Do you watch any sports, UFC,
golf?
Anything like that?
I watch golf.
You watch golf?
Sometimes.
Who's your favorite golfer?
My favorite golfer. So I mean, like just like my favorite golfer, like just in aggregate is got to be Jordan Spieth. Love the guy. I've been rooting for him since I was 2016. Since 2015, I remember watching him him collapse in the last round of the Masters 2016 live. That was so painful to watch. I felt that. But I like a couple of the other guys, like Xander Schauffele is kind of been rooting for him this season. But yeah, I could list a lot of names.
You know who John Daly is?
Yeah, John Daly.
I like John Daly.
Of course, the legend John Daly.
You look at that guy and you just kind of have to crack a laugh. He just doesn't care what anybody thinks about him, which you gotta respect. He's out there smoking a cigar or a cigarette while he's drinking a can of Coke, and he's good too. Yeah,
that guy's gotten the most reward out of playing golf and like the most pleasure and like for the least effort of any guy on tour. The most.
And now his son's up and coming too. I think he's playing in college now. They've done some tournaments together. I think they've even won some tournaments together. So yeah, John Daly, big fan of him.
Yeah, John Daly is a legend for sure.
Have you ever made like a big mistake and turned that into a really big lesson in your life?
Have I made a big mistake? Probably not like career wise or like, well, I say career, I'm 18, but like future career wise, one could say. So nothing like that. Maybe socially, there have probably been some missteps with some people that I've definitely learned from, and because I've had relatively smaller amounts of interactions, but they're definitely more pronounced and more they had more of an effect. You say,
but nothing that stands out as kind of a major mistake something that you've done in your life that kind of turned into a lesson? Nothing that really stands out.
Yeah, nothing that really stands out. And it's mostly just some perhaps some smaller social mistakes or some other kinds of stuff that we all have, but we all kind of we learn from and go for it. But I can't really say nothing stand out because my life was really, it's basically like there was not a lot of room to explore. It was just like, hey, here's this hallway that we've made and run down it as fast as you can. So not a lot of times to not much room to trip up.
How long do you plan on working for the tech company for?
Well, I have an internship this summer at Goldman Sachs.
Very impressive. I mean, that's a huge accomplishment. Tons of people try to get internships at Goldman Sachs, and it is a very, very competitive process.
I've heard the admission rate is about 1% to 2%, so it's pretty tough. And I'm really, and one of the things I was really worried about is, especially in such a quid pro quo kind of environment, I say the proudest thing, what I'm more prouder of getting in there than getting in there is getting in there on my own. By on my own, I mean me just making my own resume, sending it to there, preparing for all the interviews on myself, so I, from the start to the offer, it was just me. There was, I don't have some rich
big
family.
Accomplishment. Congratulations.
Thank you.
I hope you have a great time interning for them. And do you know what you're going to be doing for them?
No, it's not. I don't know per se. I know it's in the global markets, what used to be known as the global markets division. So something about sales, basically sales and trading. I'll probably be rotating across a couple of the desks.
So you're kind of moving away from the software engineering.
I'm exploring it.
Okay.
I'm exploring it as a potential, whether I want to do that as a career, like working for someone, or perhaps I might want to integrate that into tech somehow on my own in the future. Remains to be seen. But I intend on, after my internship, I intend on fully returning back to my tech work, and then we'll see how things go.
What do you think of Elon Musk trying to colonize Mars?
Elon Musk trying to colonize Mars. I mean, I think it's a noble effort. They say, people should, billionaires or governments should spend more time, on the issues at stake, on Earth. But I think there's probably some merit to that. I think that, I think it's a really cool endeavor on his part to try and, go to Mars. I mean, we went to the moon and then we haven't done anything. And, in the future, if we want to have like a secondary planet or something, that'd be really cool. And, who knows what quality of life efforts that would lead towards, or the jumping off point, because, there's just so many factors.
I mean, I think it's a really cool concept, but we're years and years and years away from that actually happening. I mean, just to even get there, if we could send humans there, it would take months just to get there. So once you're there, you're not really coming back for a while, because you're not going to spend months just traveling there and come right back,
Yeah, I think one of the main, I knew there was, this is a little bit separate from Elon Musk, but also related to Mars, is I know they had like some one-way type thing they were planning on sending, like all the capsules in advance and the pods and stuff, and then sending like one group of people who were going to go and live there for like the rest of their lives. And obviously if they wanted to terraform it, even if like everything worked that's hypothetically going to terraform Mars, it would take hundreds of years for that to happen. But everything has to start somewhere. So
definitely. I mean, it seems like he's pretty confident that he can get it done. I mean, he's just launched some rockets into space. So like, if there's anyone that's going to do it, it's Elon Musk. I'm not going to put it past him,
Yeah. I mean, it reminds me of like the Chinese proverb that goes, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago, but the second best time is now. So, Yeah,
I mean, if he's confident in himself, he believes he can do it, and he certainly has the money to do it.
For sure. We're just going to
cost a lot of. At what point?
At some point?
I mean, Tesla stock's been kind of.
Yeah, I think he's dropped to number 2. I think at this point the Bernard Arnault is now the richest guy. He's the CEO of Louis Vuitton and Moet and Hennessy and blah blah blah.
I truly believe that the richest guys in the world are the Saudi princes.
You know what? It's funny you should mention that, because I technically the Public Investment Fund has $600 billion in assets. And they actually own most of Magic Leap. The PIF is the largest investor and magically this is public knowledge. And so yeah, they have their fingers in a lot of pies. They have their fingers in golf. They have it in, they control a lot of assets. I mean, but who really knows, right? Back in the day, the kings of Persia had all this gold and wealth and spices, and it really, for them, it continues to this day in the form of oil.
We'll never know how much money they have. They're not paying taxes to anyone. They don't have to tell anyone how much money they have. Exactly. But do you ever listen to Joe Rogan at all?
Not too much.
So I listen to a lot of Rogan, and I was listening to one of his episodes, and he had a guest on. I do not remember who it was. And he was saying, he's like, I have a friend who knows one of these Saudi guys, and he said he probably has access to over $1 trillion if he really needed to.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that kind of puts him at another level compared to the guys we're talking about, like the CEO of Louis Vuitton and Elon Musk and Bill Gates, Warren Buffett. That's a whole nother level.
The kingdom of Saudi Arabia, like the royal family themselves, are definitely worth trillions of dollars. They have a lot of, they have so much assets. You can see like they're trying to, right now they're throwing, tens if not hundreds of billions of dollars on projects left and right. Year-round ski resorts, biggest skyscrapers, just taking things massively building out of the desert.
They're also bringing in a lot of events. They've been doing some great PR for the countries. I mean, a lot of boxing events have been taking place in Saudi Arabia, and they're paying these fighters way more than they would be getting paid over here just to have them fight over there, and bring some good PR to the country. Saudi did for a while get a bad rep, and it's still kind of a little bit has a bad rep, but it's kind of slowly getting out of that because of what they're doing.
Yeah, it's a calculated move on their end, and that's basically one of the main problems that people have with Live Golf, which is the breakaway league from the PGA Tour. They've been paying massive amounts of money to have them play on their tour, which is the Saudi-backed tour. They call it sports washing and the human rights violations that they've done, by the killing of, Jamal Khashoggi and whatnot. But which is, it's not something that, that we have to worry about here in America. But, it's something that I can't really I don't really have a formal opinion on, that. But if we say objectively, what it is that they're doing, it's definitely great to see happening in the world, such stuff. So, I mean, yeah, whether or not that, I mean, the whole point of them doing that is to sort of wash away whatever record it is they have. But it's like, at what point do you concern yourself with such matters?
Have you heard of their new project called The Line?
Yes, that's what I was trying to bring up. Yeah,
very interesting. I mean, have you seen the renderings of it?
Yes,
looks insane. It's supposedly
across
100 miles long. Like it goes across almost the entire country.
Yeah, and it looks really cool, and I know they have. I mean, if these projects actually pan out, and I know they had some ski resort stuff planned and some golf stuff planned. I mean, I would definitely visit. To this stuff, and if they try to stop me, I'd be like, hey, I work at one of your companies.
Yeah, I mean, at that point, they kind of have to let you in, right?
Yeah.
If you don't let me in, I'm just gonna.
I mean, my salary is literally oil money, so
Yeah.
I can't say anything.
If they can actually pull this off, this might be the greatest. I mean, for sure, the greatest piece of construction ever to exist.
For sure. It was really, really futuristic, and they have the pockets to actually accomplish this. Yeah. This is not like Howard Hughes in the 1900s when he had his pet aircraft company that he could do. This is hundreds of billions of dollars that they have.
And they've actually started construction on it. I mean, they're going for it.
Yeah, they're going for it.
Do you think people will actually go live in there?
Probably. I mean, it's the Middle East. I'm sure there's a lot of rich Arabs, and I'm sure they'd love to go there. It's all the oil money people. Yeah. That's why they're trying to keep oil prices high to finance these projects.
And it's also seems like a lot of people are moving to those Middle East countries, Saudi, Dubai, the UAE, to kind of evade taxes, and there's low crime rates there now, and a lot of people are going there.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because they are Arab, so they have their implementations of their Sharia law and whatnot, and of course it is a kingdom, and they have a known record of not accepting dissent. So I mean, if you fall into those categories where you're not breaking any of those laws, then I mean, why wouldn't you? It's great. But I'm not so sure how people we're Jews, so I don't know exactly how people like us would be, how much welcome
I
we'd
think
be there.
nowadays Jews are allowed in, for sure allowed in
They're
Dubai.
allowed, for sure.
For sure allowed in Dubai. Tons of Jews go to Dubai. I know people personally who go all the time for business. But yeah, they are so involved in their religion. They live by the Quran, and they won't break it, under any circumstance.
Absolutely.
I mean, just to give you an example, I know you don't follow the UFC at all.
No.
But okay, so I follow the UFC a lot, and on my list, the second best fighter of all time, Khabib Nurmagomedov, he's Russian, and he's also Muslim, and they are just so disciplined. They, the discipline that comes along with that faith. Sorry, they just train like nobody else, and a lot of fighters coming out of Dagestan, where Khabib is from, are just taking over the UFC because they are just so disciplined. No one's working as hard as them. You see videos of them swimming in freezing cold rivers, against the stream, wrestling with bears, running in the mountains, and they just kind of have that discipline that no one else really has.
Yeah, for sure. Russian and Muslim is definitely a killer combination when it comes to discipline.
Right, you're Russian as well, right?
Yes,
okay.
Russian. My mom is Russian. Yep. So there's discipline's a big thing, and for those countries, I don't have much experience with Islam or Muslims, but it is like if you take Ramadan as an example, the Jews have Yom Kippur, but they got a whole month of fasting from sun up to sundown.
Yeah, and they don't break it either. For example, Kyrie Irving, a great NBA player, during Ramadan, he plays NBA games without eating or drinking. You see him in the middle of the game. He starts eating some fruit and starts drinking water in the middle of the games, or sometimes he plays, if he has an afternoon game, he's playing that entire game on an empty stomach, dehydrated. And they will not break it whatsoever.
Right, for sure. It's a holy month.
So as a Russian, there's a lot going on in Russia right now. And
there's a lot going on.
I have to bring it up, since you're Russian.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on the war?
I mean, obviously, I'm anti-war. Obviously that's all good and all. All good and all. Being against war is what I'm saying, is all good and all. But if you look at it from a geographical standpoint, NATO has been encroaching upon. It's not that Russia doesn't have security concerns. They do. Whether or not that warrants a war is apparently it does to Putin. But the fact of the matter is that the facts of the matter are that NATO has been encroaching. During the Soviet realm, is that the eastern part of of Europe contained all these, Czechoslovakia, Yugoslavia, all those countries in Lithuania, Ukraine, Belarus. These were all, not Russia. Even though it was the Soviet Union, it was not Russia, but it was still under the communists, all the way up to Germany, right? We had the Berlin Wall. So as far as Russia was concerned, they had a massive amount of territory that they, effectively controlled in the way. It was under their influence. But since the fall of the Berlin Wall, and then all the communist regimes in Romania and whatnot, and Yugoslavia broke up, all that stuff broke up, and NATO kept encroaching, further on their territory. And, it's now becoming, their lines are now, basically Moscow is right there. It's a giant country, but most of it is kind of useless.
Yeah.
So from the point of view of a Russian government that views the West as an antagonist, right now, imagine you're Russia and you hate the West and you think the West is an enemy. Imagine China. All right, so imagine that, we're the U.S. Imagine, imagine China was in where Argentina is now, all the way down there at the bottom. Okay, it's whatever. And let's say we are friends with Mexico, and we're friends with all those Central American countries, and we're friends with all them. We have Argentina. We're like, okay, it's whatever. And then let's say 20 years go by, and now all of a sudden, all of South America is now, China right now is in Argentina. Now all of South America is suddenly suddenly now suddenly best friends with China, which is Argentina, right? So all of a sudden we're feeling a little bit pressured. Then they start coming up to. They take all of Central America, and now the only thing left is Mexico. And now let's say that Mexico is like being like, hey, maybe I should join China. And now all of a sudden they're in full panic mode. Now instead of us, the U.S., we're in full panic mode. If we viewed China as an antagonist, if we viewed China, which is, once again, Argentina, as an antagonist, do you not think that we would have invaded Mexico and try to take some of that territory to at least push us a little further? Probably we would have. And so that's kind of where Russia is coming from. Now, what's the whole premise of this is that Russia views the West as an antagonist. So that's the whole reason that should not be there. Russia should not be viewing the West as an antagonist. Of course, there's so much here, so you can't just say Russia should be doing the West as an antagonist, but we all go home. So, that's the thing. And then, of course, Putin is authoritarian, and, he's an autocrat, and so he's trying to cement himself in power. He's, like, thrown out the Constitution and done whatnot. So it's all these factors involved, and from his mind, which has just been slowly boxed in the Kremlin, for him, this is a no-brainer. And, of course, he spreads propaganda to make the Russian people, at least so they have actual reasons to, but they then come out with all these lies and all these painful stuff. And so then going further, it's like now people say, okay, but why should we support Ukraine? Like, let them duke it out, right? You can say two things. You can say, hey, this is a proxy war, or you can say, like, why isn't Zelensky? Why isn't he negotiating? Why isn't he doing any of that stuff? Well, I'll tell you why. We can compare this move and everything they've done to what Hitler did at the beginning of World War II. Okay, I'm not saying Putin is Hitler. Obviously, Hitler has done a lot worse. But let's put ourselves in the mindset of, like, the late 1930s. Hitler has yet to commit the Holocaust. He has yet to do any form of mass genocides. He has just taken power. So as far as we know, he's just some crazy leader off in Germany. Like, okay, who cares? Germany's whatever. They technically can't have an army. We have all these sanctions on them, blah, blah, blah. Who cares? But what happened is that then he started demanding to the Easterns. He said, the people in Czechoslovakia with the border of Germany, he was saying, the people on the border of Germany with Czechoslovakia, they speak German and they're being persecuted by the Czechs and everyone. Like, nobody likes them. Like, this should be our land because they're Germans and they're loyal and blah, blah, blah. Anyway, so that's what he's saying. And then that's what Putin said. He said, these things in eastern Ukraine, they're Russian speakers. They're being persecuted. Whatever. Maybe they were, maybe they weren't. Who knows? But the point is that's what he's been saying. Same thing that Hitler was saying. And so what they did back in the 30s was called the Munich Agreement. That's what the Prime Minister of England, Neville Chamberlain, he was, this is actually why he kind of got kicked out, is because this was a massive failure. Is what they did is they came to an agreement, and it was all over the news, all over the newspapers, war saved, no more war in Europe. Because what they did is they signed an agreement with Hitler, and Hitler said, we will take this territory from Czechoslovakia, we will guarantee Czechoslovakia your rights to whatever it is, and and we'll be fine. We don't want any more territory. That's it. That's what we wanted. And so everyone's saying, war averted, everything's great, blah, blah, blah. We know what happened. They didn't care less, invaded, everything, huge mess, Holocaust, etc., etc. So, I'm not saying that's what would happen here. Obviously not. The history, as they say, history doesn't repeat itself, but it does rhyme. And in this case, it's pretty close.
You mentioned the United States supporting Ukraine. I mean, I would say it's a little more than just supporting Ukraine. We've sent them, at this point, almost $100 billion. I mean, that is a lot of money to send to Ukraine, especially when our country is not in a good place. I mean, they're saying 3 weeks away from default. I mean, I just talked about this on the last episode yesterday, but I also want to hear your opinion. Have you been hearing about that?
Yeah, no, I have. I've been hearing about that. The U.S., if you look at the national debt, we spent $3 trillion in the first quarter of 2020 just for the COVID thing. Do I think it's good that we are sending military aid to Ukraine? Yeah, because, this is a proxy war against Russia. Russia views us as an antagonist. We have no choice, unfortunately, to view them as an antagonist back. So sending them actual equipment is great because, what are they going to do with the equipment? That's something, you can use. That's like saying, would you rather give someone $100 and then they say, I'm going to go spend it on, I don't know, an Apple Pencil for my schoolwork? Or would you rather just give them the Apple Pencil? You'd probably rather just give them the Apple Pencil because at least you can, of course, they can just go and sell it. But then, there's some record of that. They'd have to sell it. And at least that you're actually giving it to them. So giving Ukraine actually military supplies that we're not using, but we're technically using against Ukraine is great. I'm all for that. It is something that we should be doing to the extent that we can. Monetarily wise, that's of course where things can be up for debate. We have no idea what is actually happening there.
Right.
I'm not a conspiracy theorist.
There's a lot of conspiracies going around, a lot of propaganda. Theories. I mean, you really don't know what you can trust.
You don't know what you can trust. You don't really know unless you're actually there. Right. So unless I really know, I'd like to think that it's all good and well. But, I'm not in charge, and I'm sure there's a lot of smart people who are in charge. And, I guess the best we can do is just hope that they're actually putting it to good use. But I can't make a formal statement on that besides hope.
Right.
But I'm all for tangible support.
Do you think this is gonna cause World War III?
I mean, for the way Russia seems to be utterly incompetent, probably not. They have nukes, right? Though, so at the end of the day, they got nukes.
And I mean, also, it's not just Russia with war right now. You also have China. Tensions with Taiwan are very high at the moment.
Yeah, I'm a little more worried long term about that because the thing is that once Putin dies, it's kind of all going to fall apart. I mean, the only reason that Putin support from the oligarchy and the rest of the people are just there because they fear Putin. That's really it. The oligarchs really don't care about Russia's supremacy. They just want their money and their yachts. They really couldn't care less. It's really just Putin who's doing it. So if Putin dies or gets assassinated, which is unlikely, he'll probably die first, then things may get better. Things will likely get better with Russia. Things will likely get a lot better. I mean, I'm hoping things will get a lot better with Russia because, if something happens with China, because with China, it's the whole culture, it's the whole party. It's ingrained. It's been there for decades. If once Xi Jinping obviously has been there for a while, so he's not helping. But Xi Jinping, if Xi Jinping's gone, there's going to be someone else just like Xi Jinping who's ready to take over the mantle like that. Not so with Putin. Once he's gone, we really need to focus on building that relationship ASAP with Russia back up because if we're to, China's 1 billion people. India has got a lot of people. They've got 1 billion too, but they're not as great. So we need it'd be great to have Russia on our side for any future China conflict. But at the moment, while Putin's there, we got to keep Russia weak. Yeah. That's just how it is.
Definitely. And to go back to the United States for a second, as we're on the verge of default, what do you think is going to happen in the upcoming weeks?
That's interesting because, the United States, I was just taking a look at the national debt graph today. We had, I think we reached $1 trillion in the 80s. That was the first time trillion. So if you think about it, in 40 years, we've 23 times the national, or 32 times, excuse me, I think it's 32 at this point, the national debt. So I think the last time that we were in a surplus was during Clinton's years. And the 1998 to 2001, their national debt actually went down while Bill Clinton was president. But at the same time, it kind of boils down to is we set these debt limits for ourselves. Republicans are gonna right now it's Republicans are trying to get some sway, trying to have some sway. So we'll see if it turns into some more political bickering on most sides. Democrats are not going to want to yield anything. So. We'll see how it what it boils down to, but I feel at the end of the day, politicians, most of them are looking out for their interests in a way. That's the cliche, and I'm sure they think they're doing the best, and probably a lot of them are. I can't sit here and judge, but a lot of them are probably in their best interests, and it will likely be in their best interests to resolve this crisis. So if you can blame it on the other person, though, but it's a whole political maneuvering. I have hope that we will avoid this. Me too.
I mean, 3 weeks. I really hope that they can come up with something. Historically, in the past couple of years, the Republicans and Democrats have not been very good at, kind of meeting in the middle. But I really hope that for the sake of this country, they will step up and just one side will take one for the team and just, for the sake of this country, we'll go with you guys for this one.
Yeah.
And another interesting topic that's kind of going on in the world right now is Andrew Tate.
Andrew Tate, yes.
Andrew Tate, recently released from Romanian prison.
Right.
He was there for many months. I don't remember the exact amount.
I think it was 2 or 3.
Yeah, 3 months or something in solitary confinement, and he never actually had charges filed against him. So he was arrested under allegations. No formal charges were ever filed against him and his brother. And then also, I believe 2 or 3 other girls, like his assistant and some other workers.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
I know. I remember reading about this. I've heard that this happens all the time in Romania and some of the Eastern countries. Just that Andrew Tate is a public figure, so for him, it's like I've heard that there are people who just kind of get lost for many months in the prison system under allegation charges.
I believe they're under Romanian law, they're allowed to hold someone under allegation charges for up to 180 days. Mm-hmm. And now he's on house arrest.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's their system. They're not using it like unfairly against the Andrew Tate, specifically him. They do that just in general. It's probably, it's kind of silly probably to, the whole, that would never fly in America for obvious reasons.
Right. I mean, if you ask me, that kind of violates human decency.
Yeah.
For sure. That to hold someone for that long in solitary confinement. He's talked a little bit about his experience. He hasn't gone into too much detail, but he had rats, cockroaches, bugs, and he's just kind of in a 10 by 10 room for the entire day. He's not allowed out. He's not allowed any visitors. He's not allowed phone calls. I mean, that's gotta mess up your mind. You can't be the same after you come out of doing that.
No,
for 3 months,
sure. Yeah, no, it's definitely messes with you, and it's not something that, I mean, even people who have charges filed against them get to go out on bail, right? So in America, right? So that's like 2 steps. It's like 2 stages, of unfairness there. So,
it's a complicated subject.
You're. I mean, it's supposed to be you're innocent until proven guilty, right? So obviously,
or at least our country is backed by that. Other countries,
it is. There apparently
clearly.
Now it's once you have allegations against you, you're guilty until proven innocent. Do I think he's guilty? Probably, actually. I think he's probably guilty.
You really believe that he is?
I believe he is.
Why do you believe that?
People who engage in the sort of behavior and talk that he does generally, do not. There are more noble people than him that have done messed up stuff. So I feel like those allegations. I mean, this is just personal opinion.
Right.
Obviously, as I just said, I didn't support the treatment that he's done because there's no, they haven't had any real sort of like formal proof and trial and whatnot of whatever it is. But my personal hunch is that he's probably done that fishy stuff.
So my opinion on it is this has been an investigation for years. He got arrested recently, but they've been investigating him for years. So, if it's been a year or 2 years and you haven't been able to even just file charges, you just take it to court under charges, even if he did do it, you're not going to find anything on him that proves that he did. Personally, I don't believe that he did, but it's crazy that they're still pursuing this after I believe almost 2 years, and they haven't been able to come up with anything.
Yeah, like personally, I find all the videos that all the clips I've seen are hilarious. They're great.
They're entertaining.
They're entertaining. I don't see why people get all fussy over it, but it's not like
this generation is pretty soft.
He's not like really harmed. He's not like they haven't proved that he's harmed anyone, right?
Right. Yeah.
So
and it was interesting when
he says some stuff that some people should.
He says some borderline stuff. Definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, it was interesting because when he was in jail, a lot of Andrew Tate haters were kind of saying, I hope he goes to jail. I hope he spends the rest of his life in jail. So it's like, so you're hoping that he raped someone? Wouldn't you hope the opposite?
Yeah, because then that would like even though I'm not like I mean, we've already established my thoughts on this, but like just because you're hoping that he's guilty means so that you can prove to yourself that your mental conception of what's right.
Wouldn't you hope that someone didn't get raped?
I'd be relieved if he was innocent. I'd be relieved.
Me too. I mean, I don't want anyone to get raped, and
exactly.
If he did, then that's a horrible thing, and he should be in jail for that.
Exactly.
But it's hard to fathom that someone is just, they hate him so much. Someone that they don't even know in person. They've never actually met. They just see his stuff online, and they are pretty much saying like, I really hope this guy did rape someone.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's it's like, if he was innocent, then that'd be nice because, like, it'd be great. Well, first of all, for the reason that, like, no one was actually harmed, but also because it's like, then he's done all the, the controversial stuff that he's done and said, but, he's not actually harmed anyone. And I think that's why he gets most of the tentative sort of, like, that's why I still find some of his videos entertaining, is because, if he hasn't harmed anyone, what's the harm in finding?
I don't know if you've ever
value?
listened to him in long form context. Most people like yourself
Yeah.
have only really seen clips on social media, on TikTok. The reason because of this is he had a program called Hustlers University, and he would teach people different ways on how to make money. Mm-hmm. And one of the ways was affiliate marketing. So you would be able to create an affiliate link to his Hustlers University, and then these kids would make TikToks with clips of Andrew Tate. And then they would put their affiliate links in the bio or in the description of the TikTok. So like it was pretty much like a pyramid Ponzi scheme type of thing. And, at a certain point, he just had hundreds of thousands of kids just posting TikToks of him.
They're getting a little bit, but he's getting most of it. And
so it's like no matter where you scroll on TikTok, someone's creating a clip of him. Right. I mean, if you've ever listened to him in long form context, he is a really smart guy. And a lot of his stuff is taken out of context, and a lot of it isn't. A lot of the stuff that he says is really he probably shouldn't say, know. But
a lot of this, like the worst stuff he says, he's saying, in jest.
Right. Everything's taken out of context these days. He could sit down and talk for an hour, and he'll say one bad thing in that hour. A little 30-second clip, and that will go viral, and no one will watch the rest of the hour-long episode or video, whatever it is. And to get to my point, this is happening a lot in our country right now. That short-form content is kind of taken over, and a lot of propaganda is spreading due to those clips.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say he's like I wouldn't say he's like I mean, like if we talk about smartness, I mean, he's like, maybe like he's really street smart, like, which is what his whole thing is. Like he couldn't really give a crap about like book smartness.
He, his thing. I believe, was or very close to being a grandmaster in chess. He
was like I think his dad was like an international master.
His dad was one of the best African American chess players at all time. I forget what country.
His dad was African American.
Yeah, his dad is African American. That a lot of people don't know that. His dad, Emery Tate, is 100% African American, and a lot of times people call him racist, and he's like, "Well, that's great that you think that, but my dad is black." So
interesting.
He has mixed parents, but I don't remember what state he originally lived in the U.S. until he moved back in with his mother, and his mother was from England, so he went back to England. But he won some under 6, or he was ranked number 1 in like under 16s when he was like 8 or 10. I don't remember the exact age, but he was on his way to being a very good chess player.
Yeah,
and which is not easy to do. So he does have some sort of strategy going in his head. Someone who is that good at chess is always thinking of strategy. That's one of the main things that you learn from chess, especially getting into chess at such a young age due to his dad being a grandmaster in chess.
International, I think, but yeah. It's like one rank below in grandmaster.
Let me look it up because I'm pretty confident that Emery Tate was a grandmaster. Is Emery Tate a?
I mean, you may be right. It's good to look it up. Yeah.
I don't know why they just doesn't want to tell me. Anyways, doesn't matter. He was good at chess.
He was definitely top.
Yeah, so I believe when you hear him talk in long form, the stuff he says is smart in my opinion. He's very well spoken too.
No, he's definitely got charisma. I mean, he's definitely been able to capture an audience, and that that in and of itself warrants a certain amount of respect for sure. But yeah, I mean, it's some of the stuff that he says is stuff that should be said. Maybe he says
some outlandish stuff. It's kind of crazy, some of the stuff.
Well, yeah, some of the stuff that he says. I mean, yeah, for sure. But some of the stuff that he says is stuff that that should be. Some of the stuff he says is stuff that should be said, and then a lot of the stuff he says is stuff that should not be said. But it's whatever. He exists.
Anything else going on? Anything else you want to talk about?
No, I mean, well, not now, but not really, but I'd love to be. I'm happy to be back anytime to talk and
Oh,
discuss
thank you
stuff.
so much. There's nothing else you're interested in, nothing that you're keeping up with besides your golf?
Besides my golf, no, just a lot of reading on my finance stuff for my internship. Just
All right.
prepping.
Well, thank you so much for coming on, and good luck with your internship.
Thank you so
this
much.
upcoming summer.
Thanks so much, Julian.
Where can they find you? Your Instagram? Anything you want to promote?
Yeah, well, my Instagram is Adrian Romoff. Just Adrian Romoff. You can find me on YouTube if you want to look at some of my piano videos. That'd be great. Hopefully
Link
you
in
enjoy 'em.
description.
Yep.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of ZQUAKE. Make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel and hit the bell button so you never miss another episode. Follow us at ZQUAKE on all socials. Until next time, peace. Thank you so much.